daily Washington Nationals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody. Josh Neighbors here on the Locked On Nationals podcast. Max Rayman of District on deck there too. And also, Max, first episode ever of Locked On Nationals on YouTube. We decided to do a mailbag. You and I have talked a bunch before, but this is the first time we're doing a YouTube show.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's exciting, man. I'm glad to be the first guest.
Yeah, so we put this out on Twitter, and we said we wanted questions. So we fielded a bunch there in Reddit as well about the Nationals and other stuff. But here's a mailbag. And because, sometimes the Nats aren't playing very well. It's kind of can get a little repetitive, right? And when teams are pressing, trying to win games, they make changes when things don't go well, right? For the Nationals, you kind of just keep trying to do the same stuff over and over again. Not always over and over again, but, if Mason Thompson struggles, he doesn't have to worry because he'll get another shot, right?
Yes, sir. And I'm excited. My first time doing a mailbag, as I told you earlier, so it's something new.
All right, so, and also the Nationals are playing right now, which is funny enough. All right, so here's our first question. This one came from Lucas Smith, who's a Locked On Cardinals host. He says, a little less than 2 months in, who has won the John Lester trade, in your opinion? Now, I think this was said tongue-in-cheek, but I actually have a graphic here I put together. So here is your breakdown of the two players since the trade. John Lester is 8 games started, 1-2 record, which that does not matter at all. 4.30 ERA, 44 innings pitched. In the last 4 games, really strong. 23 2/3 innings pitched, 1.90 ERA. The Cardinals are 4-4 in starts that he has made. Now, they've been a roughly around 500 team. I'll put that back up. And let's just hit on the John Lester piece of this. He was horrible for the Nats. And if the Nats were trying to win, approaching potentially DFA territory, right, Max? That's kind of the situation the Nationals had with that. But he's performed a lot better. His ERA is, I think it's almost a full point better there than it was with the Nationals.
I remember back in June, after he had another really bad start, even the beat reporters were throwing out rumors if that was going to be Lester's last time for the Nats. So, he stuck around, went to the Cardinals. He looks a lot better. He's been playing good teams. He looked really well against the Brewers, who are the cream of the NL Central. I'm surprised we didn't DFA him, but that's the Cardinals' gain, I guess.
And then for the Nationals, Lane Thomas, an absolute revelation. This is not counting today. We just drove in a run, but 28 games, 120 plate appearances, 301 batting average, 392 on base, a 150 OPS plus, where the league average for that is 100. 4 homers, 17 RBI, 16 walks, 25 Ks. But just kind of shows you this is a guy who's trying to make stuff happen. And you and I have talked about Lane Thomas, but I just think that's the big key, right? You can see him out there. It's not like he's pressing too much. And sometimes maybe he does a little bit. But overall in the performance, this is a guy who's trying to make stuff happen. It feels like the Nationals offense has kind of kicked it into gear a little bit more towards the second part of the season because of the way that he's played. Even after all those trades, it felt like there was a bit of stagnation. This guy has been an absolute revelation at the top of the order.
Well, yeah, because when you trade Turner away and you get rid of your best bat, not named Juan Soto, and your most consistent guy getting on base, it's hard for then Soto to get plate appearances, right? Because they're just going to walk him right away, or hard for him to get competitive ABs because they're going to walk him right away. He comes in, immediately replaces Trey Turner in the lineup with his speed, with his bat that no one expected, because in St. Louis he was I believe the 5th outfielder, and he's in for power, he's in for average, he's all over. So yeah, and then because the way he's been getting on so consistently, Juan Soto is having a tremendous second half, and I want to say it's partly due to Thomas just coming out of the gate and surprising everyone.
Yeah, and barring John Lester continuing this level of play and helping the Cardinals, win the playoff series or whatever, I think it's safe to say the Nationals have won this because John Lester has not been off to a good start with the Cardinals. He didn't start very well. He's pitched well recently, but the Nationals got a player who's played well from pillar to post and also has got a bunch of control time left. So I know we're Nats podcast, but you got to think like even if John Lester's great, you only get him for one more year. Not saying Lane Thomas is going to be excellent, but they've got a player who at the bare minimum they're going to trust as somewhat of a utility outfielder, a speed guy that is cheap that they can have around for years to come.
Yeah, he has 4 years of control left. John Lester's a rental. He's also 37. And it was
Right.
interesting when they made the trade because they were so far back in both the Central and the wild card. Granted, no one expected both Lester and J.A. Happ to be able to do what they're doing after their such weak starts to the season. So, yeah, the Cardinals I believe they took the wild card last night, part in
They did.
play
Yeah,
to Lester.
yeah.
So, I mean, it's basically worked out for both teams so far because if the playoffs start today, the Cardinals will be in, which is exactly what they wanted. And for the Nats in a rebuild, they have a guy with 4 more years of control who's only 26. So it's really worked out for both teams. I want to say the Nats won it more because, well, of the team control and everything like that. But for the Cardinals, everyone knows once the Cardinals reach the playoffs, they're a completely different team. They've showed it time and time and time again. So who knows? If they do make the playoffs, they could go on another run like the Nats did. So for now, I'd say it's a pretty even trade just because of how Lester's able to help get his team from a middling NL Central third place team to the second wild card.
Yeah, and he's been stable enough. And it's kind of a change of scenery thing for both guys right now. I just think with Lane Thomas, the amount of time he's got left, I think that benefits the Nationals. All right, next one we've got. So which of the Nats prospect acquisitions is going to have the biggest impact? Now, I want to put a little qualifier on this, Max. We've seen K-Bear, we've seen Josiah, we've seen Mason Thompson, we've seen Riley Adams. So let's kind of put those guys to the side a little bit. Let's think about the guys that the Nationals acquired in some of those other trades, right? Other trades. They got in the trades that we have not seen yet. So you think about some of the trades that they made. I know I mentioned Mason Thompson there, but think about the guys like Richard Gauch. I think it's Gauch, I forgot how to pronounce it. Seth Schumann, Drew Milas are the guys they got there. Gerardo Carrillo, Donovan Casey, the other guys they got in that trade for Trey Turner and Max Scherzer. Who is the guy that you think maybe down the line has the biggest impact out of those guys? Anybody catching your eye right now?
Donovan Casey. He was the outfielder acquired from the Dodgers. I'm bringing up his stats right now because he's been very impressive at AAA with the Nats.
And he's a guy he's darn near major league ready. I mean, like you've been talking about, this year for him, he's had a really strong year in AAA, 303 on the season. Now he's played for a few different teams, but during his time in Rochester, not been like as strong, but during the year he's had a really strong year. And it's a guy who his entire minor league career has been a really solid hitter everywhere he's gone. It's also a guy who's going to be major league ready next year, 25 years old, right? And it's a guy that at that age, at where he's at, especially with the bat, it's time for him. I know the AAA hasn't gone great for him during a short time in Rochester, but the rest of his minor league career says he can hit.
So the one thing that he needs to work on is his strikeouts. He has a bunch of swing and miss in his swing. And it's interesting because he starts the season at Double-A Tulsa of the Dodgers, right? And he puts up 102 strikeouts in 334 plate appearances, but he also still hit 296 of an 824 OPS and 11 homers. So you'll take that. But with Rochester and 93 plate appearances, he already has 41 strikeouts, 188 average, and a 541 OPS. But he's shown what he can do. Like when he came to Harrisonburg before he got put up to AAA, 51 plate appearances, hit 347, only 9 strikeouts, 965 OPS. So I just think it was him adapting to AAA for the first time. And next year, like he's been showing it. Like he was underrated guy. The Dodgers helped develop him, and everyone knows that the Dodgers, when they touch someone, they just become an elite prospect. It doesn't really make sense. And luckily for us, they developed him, so now we just get to further push him along. And I think once next year he gets a full spring training with the Nats, gets to meet with the new coaches, and then goes back to AAA, he'll be fine. He has shown kind of like Lane Thomas. Thomas strikes out a lot, but at the same time, he's been getting on consistently enough to make up for it. And I think Casey, once he gets his foot going in AAA next year, he'll be up on the roster fighting for a fourth outfield spot.
Yeah, he's a guy that, I think you have to consider just because like he can be kind of that fourth, almost a fourth hitter, but in the back part of your lineup, right? A guy who hits seventh. So maybe if the 6, 7 guys are on, you can make something happen. Maybe a guy who hits ninth, maybe in a position you hit the pitcher eighth, but a guy who hits ninth because he can make something happen for you, right? A guy who can potentially get on base. I know it's feast or famine, but I mean, as far as hitting a guy ninth, the Nationals have had no luck with that, right? Turning over the lineup for them has been a challenge at times. It's the type of player that, might not give you the result always that you want, but a guy who can make things happen sometimes. So maybe there is a spot for him towards the bottom of the order, maybe. But I know the K rate is insane. I mean, he strikes out way too much, but his productivity, considering his K rate, is like, I don't think you could argue about it. I mean, the guy produces runs.
Yeah, I agree. And then it's not just Dominic Casey though that's interesting. We got a plethora of arms in the trades. Like the guy we got for Schwarber, he was hurt, so he was late to make his debut with the Nats, but he's looked impressive. They got some other bullpen arms that they got from. I think they got one in the Turner trade also, correct? Yeah, Carrillo.
The guys, it's Gerardo Carrillo. Yeah.
Yeah. He's another, and like these guys that throw hard, like in today's baseball, that's what you need, especially when the Nats were pulling up pitchers that were throwing like low 90s. You got guys with live arms. They're going to come in here. You work on the control a bit, and they could be interesting bullpen weapons. And then the biggest thing we got at the trade deadline was catchers. And the catcher that no one's talking about is the guy in the
Drew Milas.
Drew Milas from the Harrison Gomes trade. He's a AA who's also looked really good.
Yeah, they've got a stable of catchers now. Like that's the spot, that's a spot that and you think of, and I know not every team's a championship team, right? But you think about that catcher spot, that was a position of strength, that Nationals team that won the championship, right? The Jan, I know Jan wasn't excellent, but the Kurt Suzuki Jan Gomes tandem was really solid. And Jan was solid after that too, because that's a position in the league that you don't see a lot of guys. I mean, there's so many catchers in this league that play consistently. Alex Avila, no offense to him, but the guys aren't that good at hitters. No. You know what I mean? And so that's a premium, having some guys who can bounce the ball around.
Think about this. Corbin's only good year for the Nats, who was his catcher? Jan Gomes. Gomes, even though he wasn't hitting as well that year as he was the other 2 years for the Nats, he did something like he was the Corbin whisperer, because he got Corbin to be his best, and he was the one that caught the last out of the World Series, all that fun stuff. So, yeah, Gomes did his part. And even dating back to when the Nats were at the top of the NL East, Wilson Ramos. So now that we have a plethora of catchers again, it's a good thing to have, because we show that that's always been the Nats staple.
All right, let's move on. Next question here. This one's a funny one. Is Mike Rizzo actually a sleeper agent for the Dodgers? Why do they feel so inclined to help them so much? This is interesting. I know, obviously, like the joke aside here, this trade is a pivotal moment in this baseball season. The Nationals were involved in. And I know Trey is excellent every single day, but Max Scherzer, it felt like he was a Padre, right? Everything we were reading on Twitter, a bunch of people, from Kent Rosenthal to local reporters in San Diego, and this speaks to a problem that we have in baseball, some reporting and whatnot. But it felt like he was a Padre, and he goes to the Dodgers. I know the Dodgers have not overtaken the Giants, because the Giants have been amazing. But the Dodgers, they're one of the favorite. I think they made some of the odds-on favorite to win the World Series. There's a reason for that. And, this is a trade that's going to be monumental when we look back on the season. Potentially could have won the Dodgers the championship this year. So, I just would have, kind of looking back at that, Max, talk about kind of that moment. What a weird inflection point. We thought he was going to be a Padre.
Yeah, and this wasn't the first time that Ken Rosenthal had something like this. I believe he was the one that had the Michael Brantley to the Toronto Blue Jays in the previous offseason. But Ken was quick to apologize. But the thing is with this whole sleeper for the Dodgers is everyone freaks out when the Nats give up a bunch of big-name players to receive top prospects, and the prospects struggle out of the gates, right? So everyone's like immediately freaking out. Look at Lucas Giolito and the White Sox. He was terrible in 2018. He was statistically the worst pitcher in baseball, and he was on the verge of falling out, and then he became what everyone thought he could become in 2019. These guys are 23 years old and young, so yeah, they're going to struggle out of the gate. No, Mike Rizzo's not a sleeper agent. He knows what he's doing. But for the Dodgers, yeah, this is a win-now move, as the Nats were looking for a win-later move. And yeah, but when the Nats did the Scherzer trade, everyone knew who he was. I don't think anyone expected Scherzer to go and have a .88 ERA since the trade deadline. Like, I don't even think he expected that.
No, he's been like absolutely disgusting. It's been, I mean, this is as good as it ever looked, as we now have it looks like the ground rule double or home run for somebody in the Nats game. You all will know whenever you watch this because this isn't live. So yeah, what a crazy inflection point. This is a good question coming up here. Which team's bandwagon are you hopping on for the stretch run, and why is the Blue Jays? This comes from Sean Woodley, the Locked On Raptors podcast host. But that's a great question for Nationals fans. Now, I know the Dodgers are like, to me, the Dodgers will never be the big bad, like the Yankees type deal or the, the Patriots type, evil team. But the Dodgers, to me, the Nats have a connection there. To me, the Astros are still I still resent the Astros. And if I'm a Nats fan, I'm not cheering for the Astros. That's what I'm not doing. That's number one. I would say that the Dodgers have to be up there, right? Because, Max Scherzer and Trey Turner, and those guys gave so much to the Nationals championship, and it's like, you want to see those guys succeed and do well. Who do you think should be?
I mean, I agree with the Dodgers take. My answer is I got two. They're both in the Central, the Brewers and the Reds. The Brewers, because they remind me of the Nationals. That starting rotation is absolutely disgusting. And then you got some big name guys in the lineup that are helping anchor it, like Christian Yelich. Willie Adames is out of nowhere an MVP candidate that no one expected. Eduardo Escobar looks really good after the trade. And then you got some of the other guys like Omar Narvaez, and you just like guys that you wouldn't really think of, like that never really carried other teams, but now that they're all together doing great. Also, that rotation, as I said, Woodruff, Peralta, and then Corbin Burns, and you got one of the best bullpens in baseball. They're just fun to watch, and they remind me of the way the Nats were built in the early 2010s. And then the Reds, because one, Cincinnati has been bad for so long. I like to see new blood, and Nick Castellanos is the man, and I think Twitter would explode if that man wins a World Series ring. Like, the memes would be phenomenal.
He just seems to have a way of, whatever it is. Did you see, I'm sure you saw the tribute to somebody who'd passed away while he was hitting that home run.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and also the memes on Twitter for everything are always so funny. And I think, I forgot who somebody put out a fake statement the other day for some team, and it was and somebody's like, it got me again. Like, it's just so funny how it always keeps happening. I know the situation itself was bad, but the fact that we all acknowledged it was, what was bad about it, and he's gone, we can make fun of it now.
And then in the AL, Toronto's exciting, but I'm going to go with Tampa. They went to the World Series last year. Kevin Cash made his decision, didn't work out. They traded Blake Snell, right? It looks like they were right. I mean, Blake Snell has been phenomenal the last month and a half, but I did not think Tampa was going to rise back to where they were after they lost both Morton and Snell. That team is going starting pitching. This team has been phenomenal. They have an 8 or 9 game lead in the AL East, which has just been a bloodbath. They're running away in the American League, and they don't spend any money. I mean,
I know. I bet their fans are like, we could guarantee maybe a win, a World Series potentially, and their ownership is like, why would we spend any money? Why? We don't have to do it. And but you see what I'm saying with the frustration, because it's like, because I forget, who do they trade because they had to make room cash wise for Nelson Cruz?
They traded their closer. Castillo to
we got to make money. Like Nelson Cruz is a big acquisition, but you can't just have Nelson Cruz. We have to subtract somebody first.
And it made no sense because Seattle traded Graven away just to acquire Castillo. So it still makes no sense why they traded their closer away for another one. But I'm not Jerry Dipoto. That guy has never made sense.
I would say the Red Sox up there too, because they're just fun. I think they're like this.
Kyle Schwarber.
And the team that's totally predicated off offense, right? I mean, they're happy to get pitching.
I like them solely because they put Schwarber in the leadoff spot. And because I was one of the biggest advocates to be like, that's stupid. And then it worked. And then when he came back, he was like 4th and 3rd. And then now he's leading off and actually doing it again. It's so fun to watch because it's just so troll.
Yeah, he's such a fun player. And we always talk about, could a player come back? Could a player come back after they leave? I'm of the mind that I think it's really difficult because, if you want somebody to stay with you or be with you at some point on the team, don't let them go at any point in time. You know what I mean? Keep them there. Schwarber is one they had to get rid of just because of that. But I think that's a guy that I would love to see back.
Yes, sir.
I think if the Red Sox offer him the right contract, he should stay there because it
I,
is a hitter's friendly ballpark, my friend.
he's going to get paid this offseason because of the season he's having. He's having a career year. But I mean, to what you said, I mean, Matt Adams was no Kyle Schwarber. Well, we traded him away in 2018, and he came back and immediately signed with us. And Big City was very helpful down the stretch.
Right, and when you think, I mean, this is kind of a good question too. When you think about the guys who've been traded away with the opportunity to come back, who do you think the most likely one is? I know they love Josh Harrison, but I think every team now sees what Dave Martinez saw in Josh Harrison. I bet everybody else sees that now, and everybody else will be clamoring for that. Kyle Schwarber, what do you think? I mean, they have a need at left field. Like, I think you could make the argument, Max, that hey, it might be worth giving Kyle Schwarber a multi-year contract for the right number because number one, the DH is coming. Number two, we're trying to build some outfield depth right now. And number three, like he really liked it here. He proved he could play here, and it's a need. I think you could make an argument that is one that makes some sense.
My answer to the guy I think who wants to be back the most is Daniel Hudson. You saw what they did for him. Like he got cut in 2019 spring training by the Angels, I believe. Goes to Toronto, posted 3 ERA, traded to the Nats. Then he becomes arguably the best reliever in baseball that year. Gets hurt, is awful in 2020. Then 2021, he's just amazing again. They revitalized his career. Like he was struggling, and the Nats just did something that just like helped him turn it around.
Right.
And he won a ring with them, like, and they were, how like the whole situation during the Cardinal series. Because he left to go have a kid because his wife was having birth, and like the media lambasted him. And the Nats were so quick; his teammates and his coaching in the front office were so quick to have his back. Stuff like this stands out, and I believe because of situations like that, Hudson would love to come back. Like he went to ODU, right, a Virginia school, so he's a Virginia guy. Like they love him.
Right. I think the one thing for them is they got to figure out closer first because I love Daniel. I think he's a great pitcher, but if he doesn't want to close, then
I know
it's the problem because I like kind of Finnegan too, but I think Finnegan belongs in like the 7th or the 8th, and he's been really strong this year. So they've got to figure out the closer thing. I know it's last year it didn't work spending money, but like they have to think long and hard about how they want to. Decision. Do they want to search for? I mean, I think it's almost the best idea is to go into a season with a bunch of guys that can give you an inning, see how things go, and then whoever fits into that closer, like the idea we assign closer. How did it work out this year? It didn't, right? It did not work out. Brad Hand was a disaster. Any interest in bringing Brad Hand back? What do you think about that one? Get him for dirt cheap.
No comment.
Yeah. All right, another one here. So we're kind of rounding up here, a couple more. Does Ryan Zimmerman return for another season, do you think? So he's had some moments. I think maybe you do, but as long as he kind of understands, like, you are your bench bat. That's kind of what you are, and that's what he's been. And he's had some really strong moments. And this year for him as a whole, I mean, he's gotten, I think, a little bit better as the season's gone along. But 243, 285, 483 is splits there. On base percentage, don't pay attention to that. Your job when you come to the game in that spot is not to you're not trying to walk. It's not the goal there. So, he's hit, what is it this year? He's had home run wise 14 home runs on the season in 246 appearances. 36 years old. That power is starting to dissipate a little bit. I mean, I think the Nationals would allow him back under the understanding that, it's for leadership. Your quality of play doesn't really warrant you coming back and returning.
I mean, he's like their Ryan Braun, right? The Ryan Braun just retired, but the Brewers even said, like, you can come back really whenever. That's how the Nats are. Like, at this point, he's meant so much to his franchise, so much to his fan base, and he knows, and the fact that he's already, like, accepted his new role and knows he won't be a starter anymore, and if they do get a DH next year, that would be very helpful because that's a guy that could stay fresh and give him some quality ABs. I don't think Ryan Zimmerman even knows what he's going to do. Because he had some comments the other day. Like, he was telling reporters he's not going to think about it till come December. He's not going to, like, make a decision till come December. He wants to, like, think it over, see how everything's going. So I don't even think – he doesn't even know yet. So I'm going to go 50-50. I wouldn't be surprised if either situation would surprise me. If he's back, cool. If he retires, cool. I kind of expect both.
Yeah, it's hard at this point. And, you're not trying to win at this point either. Like you're
Yeah.
not the Nationals could retool some things and be good next year, but I think this is a multi-year process. I think
Mm-hmm.
next, as much as a lot of fans probably wish this last period of the year was what works, what doesn't work, and then we'll see what happens. They don't have enough
No.
they don't have enough playoff type pieces. Next year is the year you say what works, what doesn't work. Maybe you float with a wild card appearance for a little while. You're feisty, and then the next year is when you say, okay, we've identified the pieces, we've added the additions that we need. Let's go and do it. So, and he understands that. He's been around this game long enough. He's been a part of a championship build. So I think I'm with you on that. All right, last one here. What's your favorite sports movie? So not necessarily Nationals related. I think, look, baseball is actually not my favorite sport, but I think Moneyball is one of the best sports movies. And you could argue it's not really it's a sports movie, but it's not. It's about finding an efficiency and beating the system wrapped inside of a sports narrative. I love Moneyball. I think because it does that and does it so well, that's my favorite. I love Philip Seymour Hoffman as the manager. He's hilarious. May he rest in peace, but he's hilarious, and his interactions with Brad Pitt make me laugh every time I watch it. So I think I'm going to go with Moneyball there because most movies are like the Disney sports movies. I pass that along. I don't really like the Disney sports movies. Moneyball is like legit fun, good movie to me.
For baseball, it's 42.
Oh yeah, I love that movie's awesome too. Yeah,
that's my favorite. I grew up a Bull Durham fan because of my dad, and I still have a lot of these quotes memorized. Grew up a Sandlot guy, but it's 42. That movie just blew me away.
Chadwick Boseman too. I mean, he's awesome.
Yeah, he was amazing in that. And then, because I grew up in the I was like 5 or 6 in the 90s. Growing up, Space Jam, kind of had to. Like I was like 1 when it came out, but like when it became like really popular, like 2000, always on like Disney Channel, stuff like that. I watched all the time. And you said you're not a big Disney sports movie fan, but I love Glory Road.
Okay, yeah. So I don't like that. Remember the Titans? I'm not a huge fan of, and just because
I've never
seen
The
Blind Side is awful. I think The Blind Side's an awful movie. I think it's horrible. It's incorrect, and it's the white savior movie.
I've never seen Remember the Titans. I just grew up watching.
Haven't?
No, I've never seen it.
As a DMV person, you've never seen that movie?
It's funny because I even played lacrosse at TC Williams, right?
Really?
Like I played on the fields there, but I've never seen the movie.
In high school, we talked to the coach, and he was, we basically told us, he was like, yeah, we really won because we had so many. It's because they integrated, yes, but it's because they had so many kids at the school. Their talent pool to pull from went up, and it allowed them to just build this juggernaut of a team. And he's like, the games weren't, honestly as close as they kind of portray them to be. And some of the moments are very Disney and very Hollywood. That's why I'm a no on that one. But yeah, I think there's baseball movies, like when people talk about the best sports movies, a lot of them are baseball movies, right? People love Bull Durham. Major League is it's really
I forgot about Major League.
Yeah, Major League's hilarious. That movie's hilarious.
Yeah.
Field of Dreams, I don't think it's a very good film.
It's all right.
So I know people get nostalgic about it, but I don't think it's that good. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Moneyball. You said your favorite is what? It's 42.
Yeah, I mean, I go by sport. I don't know which one comes or comes, but for baseball, I'll go with 42.
Yeah, I just think also you can think about like Chadwick Boseman, that movie. Like picking somebody to play Jackie Robinson is probably very difficult. And he gave that position he gave that role like the right demeanor, and really you could tell paid attention to making that character come to life for a lot of people who never saw him play or really was.
It's funny because everyone's like, "Oh, that's Black Panther. Oh, that's Black Panther." I'm like, no, that's Jackie.
That's
Robinson.
Jackie Robinson. Yes,
Put some respect on his name.
Right. All right, Max. Where can people find you and your work, and what are you working on right now?
Check me out on Twitter at Max Rayman. Check us out on Dish on Deck. Right now, we have a few pieces coming on. Writing a Juan Soto MVP conversation article because he 100% deserves being that. I don't give a damn that the Nats aren't going to make the playoffs. That's dumb that that's becoming an argument. And even though he might not win it, he deserves to be a finalist.
I just had a podcast about this. I'm not sure if you saw. I had a podcast and said, yeah, this guy should be considered, and basically just talked about how baseball is unlike every other sport, and winning should not matter.
No, The only other sport I say that is also hockey. Hockey and baseball are the 2 hardest sports to carry a team by yourself. Like Connor McDavid is doing his hardest, and in hockey, and he can barely do it.
Yeah,
And look,
yeah.
Mike Trout is the greatest player of our generation. I was looking at his numbers today for my Soto piece. His numbers are insane, and he made the playoffs once. Like, you just can't do it.
Right. And Shohei Ohtani is another example. I mean,
Mhm.
do they think Vladimir? I haven't seen the odds. Is Vladimir Guerrero Jr. expected to win now? I feel like Shohei's still got to win it, right? Because of what he's been doing. Both sides.
As of 4 days ago, I think it was Bleacher Report. They had the odds of like Shohei Ohtani was like minus 5,000.
Yeah, it's just because of what he's been doing both ways. But
Yeah,
it just shows
like,
you, and
mhm.
and he's an amazing example because I talk about Juan Soto, and it's like, he's out there. Think about Juan Soto in right field. He doesn't bat every inning, and also even though he plays every inning in right field, doesn't necessarily mean he's going to get a chance to make a play, right? Because the
Right.
way things work, and because of that, it's not like basketball. Like if LeBron's on the court, LeBron's going to touch the ball a bunch. In football, the quarterback wins MVP because the quarterback is the most important position by far. Baseball, like you can argue about what the most important position is, and it's one of those sports that just like it takes a team. Like it really does take a team to win.
Shohei Ohtani is the closest player we've come where a guy single-handedly can like carry a team because he's pitching
Right.
and hitting, and he's still not even coming close.
And still, he only pitches every fifth day, and
Mhm.
he DHs too, right? I don't think he plays much in the field anymore, does he?
I don't think so.
And
And it works out when they play in the NL, like he actually gets the hit. So like they have an advantage there. But like, because as an AL team, you played the NL, like 30 times and you're only going to pitch like 5 of those games.
Right. I'm going to ask you, actually, let's get one more question if you got a second before we get out of here. Do you think Juan's the best all-around hitter in baseball? I think he is. I think when I say all-around, I mean like, okay, power, check. He goes both ways like all the time. I mean, teams should not shift on him. Check. Does he walk a lot? Does he get on base a lot? Check. That's both by hitting and by way of being a really patient, great hitter. Like, could you? And the biggest spots in the order people talk about are 1, 2, and 3. Could you hit him in any 3 of those spots? Yes, and yes. To me, he checks all the boxes of like all around hitter. I'm not saying he's the best hitter, period, because it kind of matters the situation that you're in. But when you assess him and what he's done this season, considering the fluctuation of talent around him, how consistent he's been, I think that speaks to the approach is the same, production is the same, the all-around nature of his game.
I have him second because until this guy falls off a cliff, my answer is always going to be Mike Trout.
Okay.
I just can't do it. I just can't do it until he proves he can no longer do it at a high level. He is going to be my answer.
I think the all around, and I think once again because he's on the Nationals. Like the Nationals, I know they won a World Series, but it's not a massive market. They're not getting all the attention. But you look at the National League MVP race, and how is Juan not top 3? How is he not? I mean, I would say it's Bryce, Tatis, and Juan at this point in time. And I think Bryce should probably win it this year because he is the only player on an offense right now that is, they're trying to make the playoffs, but it feels like Bryce is the one thing propelling them. Even though they're sputtering, he's just trying his hardest to get them over the top, and he can't seem to do it because it's not his fault.
Nope.
Fernando, they had to move him to the outfield because of his defensive
because of
issues.
his shoulder.
His shoulder, and I think if his shoulder sucked, he sucked at defense. So it's like you got to move him.
I mean, I get that, but like it also doesn't help that like he banged up his shoulder his rookie year, his shoulder and his back, I believe. He's hurting his shoulder again. He's only 22 and he's already moving positions. Like that doesn't help. But I mean, I believe he leads the NL in homers because he has 38.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it sounds right.
And I would die on this hill if Juan Soto didn't get that false COVID positive last year. He wins MVP.
He wins MVP. I'm with you. And winning should not matter. Like I'm not saying just the numbers matter, but if you watch him play, like think about the value of a player who's that good all the way around. Once again, Bryce is single-handedly keeping his team in this thing with an elite offensive performance. That's why I would give him the nod in this situation, which is, shows you that we're unbiased here, right? Former National, not a lot of love. Mm-hmm. He's on the Phillies now. We're showing him some love.
Get this. Number 1 in batting average in the National League, Trey Turner. Number 3, Juan Soto. Number 5, Bryce Harper. Ever heard of him?
Yeah.
It makes me
the Nats fans know who they are. The fact that all 3 of those guys in the same team. Oh my God.
It makes
the same time, but
I saw it. No, they were all 2018.
Oh yeah. That's right. They were all together. Now I guess Juan didn't.
Juan was a rookie. That was his rookie year.
Wow, how much did he play in? Yeah, that's right.
Because he finished second. He finished second rookie of the year to Cunha. He came up in May. They're going to call up Robles.
That is right. He came
Robles
into
got
May.
hurt.
That is correct. Yes.
And it's funny because I saw a tweet today. That lineup 1 through 5 was Turner, Soto, Harper, Rendon, and Daniel Murphy, and they went 82 and 80.
Here's the problem. They cut them all
Injuries.
at the wrong time.
They
cut them all at the wrong time too. It's like you just think about. I mean, all of those guys at one point were, you can make an argument with all those guys at one point in their career have been the best hitters in the National League at some point in time.
And it's also funny that all 5 of them have played for multiple. Some of them played for multiple teams. All of their best individual season came in DC at one point or another.
That is true. Murphy's came there. You have Rendon, obviously, fantastic, and then
Harper's 2015.
Price, yeah. Now, this year is better than the year that he had. That year was better than the year he's having this year.
Yeah, this is his second best period.
I still think this year, to me, is really impressive just because that team has been so inconsistent, and Bryce not always known for his consistency, right?
Nope.
The fact that he's been so consistent has been pretty impressive, and obviously Trey and Juan, yeah. All right, Max, thank you. Thank you so much. Find your work district on deck. Anything else you want to plug before we get out of here?
No, man. Just thanks for letting me join as the first guest for this.
Awesome. Make sure you guys follow us on Twitter at @LO_Nationals. You can find us Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and also you can find us on YouTube now. Great. Go subscribe, give us a thumbs up, and tell us what you think of the questions. Give us your own answers to some of them as well. We'd love to interact with you guys. All right, Max, that will do it. Thank you, man. Appreciate your time.
All right, man.